Right, now, hopefully it'll be as busy as that all morning. Right, we'll be keeping a very close eye on public sector spending because there's loads to talk about, isn't there? But let's head to Lancashire, where despite a last-minute injunction granted on Friday, fracking into sandstone could start this week. Fracking, remember, is the process of drilling down into rock, injecting liquid at high pressure to open existing cracks and release shale gas. Well, Lancashire County Council didn't want it, but was overruled by the government, which now wants to speed up the planning process elsewhere, prompting accusations that local democracy is dead. Here's Mike Stevens.
It's been a long, hard battle for Lancashire's anti-fracking campaigners. And this week they took the fight to the Conservative conference. The protests in Birmingham came just days before fracking in Lancashire is due to begin. And campaigners are still upset about the way it was allowed and government plans to speed up the process.
In future, planning applications won't even come to local councils for the exploratory stage of fracking. So basically they're just allowing the industry to walk all over us. It's all in favour of the industry.
It took the Development Control Committee here at Lancashire County Council almost a week to decide that fracking in Lancashire shouldn't be allowed to take place. At the time, campaigners praised the councillors, describing them as brave. But ultimately, Quadrilla appealed the decision and won, with the government allowing fracking at Little Plumpton to take place.
The chair of the committee at the time says issues like this should be decided locally.
I feel that the local authority needs to be given full powers to decide on any planning application that is within their boundaries. I feel that people of Lancashire have slightly been let down.
On the front foot this week, showing journalists around its first fracking site, Quadrilla came out in favour of government plans to relax the initial planning process.
But there's still a huge degree of involvement by the local county council and the local community because they participate in effect what is a public process. So although it's a national regime, you are still heavily engaged with the county council, the Environment Agency, the Health and Safety Executive and others. So I don't think we see it as an easier route, certainly. It's a different route.
Well, the government says sites like this have the potential to deliver substantial economic benefits both locally and nationally.
So we've done lots on the right of wrongs of fracking over the years. But let's talk about the local democracy. Frances Egan there from Quadrilla says councils are still involved. The local people are still involved.
We are involved, but we have no say. They say they'll give us money, but that's just a little bit a sop to us. What's going to happen is we're risking a lot of other industry. We've got a tourist industry around there, 6,000 wells overall they're talking about. That's a lot more for our area. We're going to lose money from our farming industry, which is around there. So we're losing.
The government says also risking our energy future, though. A government has a responsibility to ensure we have enough energy.
It does, and it should be going for the renewables, and it's not.
Will take years, won't it?
It takes years to get this industry up and running. So it's just diverting us from the need to look.
So this would speed it up, would it?
Power.
This would speed up the fact that we'd get our energy quicker, wouldn't it?
No, it wouldn't, because basically we're putting our energy into creating this, whereas we're not looking at renewables. We're not pushing for the next phase of energy. So the result is we're arguing over fracking. We're arguing over gas that we can't afford actually to burn because of all the climate change chaos that's coming.
Rachel, a good Tory council, would Cheshire East welcome the frackers?
Cheshire East would want the local decision. Cheshire East believes in the local planning process and that representation, and it needs
but the
a well-informed...
wants to override that, doesn't it? It does want to override that if it's preferred.
A local decision
the go-ahead
is about a well-informed decision. However, there is always the right of appeal, and Quadrilla took that, and that resulted, as can occur, with an overturning
but
of
the government
that appeal.
overruling the views of local people.
If you are refusing a planning application, you absolutely have to have conditions that you would want implemented by the inspectorate should the inspectorate find in favour of the appellant, which is what happened in this case.
Andrew, you say you block fracking. If you were in government, you'd stop it all, would you?
Yes, we would have a ban of fracking, and we've been very clear on that. But in the meantime, what we've absolutely got to do is to make sure that the government does not get away with relaxing the planning laws, which they are threatening to do. It's absolutely right that it should be a local decision reflecting on the local concerns and the local views through their elected councillors, and I think there's unanimity around
But if the government has a strategy
this,
and it's trying to democratically elect a government trying to devise a strategy for the whole country, can local groups get in the way of that whenever they feel like it?
Look, it's about the local environment, but it's also about the national and the global environment. And if we are committed to cutting emissions as seriously as we say we are, if we are committed to the Paris Climate Accords, then we have actually got to put actions in place that deliver that renewable energy mix. And that's why at the Labour Party conference we said that this is where the future is. There are high-tech, high-skilled jobs that Britain is a leader in, and we should absolutely be investing in renewable energy technology for the future, because that is good for our economy, but it's also good for our environment.
Does your government like talking the talk on local democracy, but ultimately it just overrides it?
I think that my government has a very difficult decision here. If we talk about renewable energy, let's think about the debate of wind farms. I know that in Cheshire East there is huge concern as to the impact on the vista and the whole image of a shire with regard to wind farms in return for what energy is given. And I think
they're
that's
not polluting the atmosphere,
though,
are they, in the way people fear fracking will?
Actually, the representations I've received with regard to wind farms is that there is a different form of pollution, and that's noise pollution. We embraced them when they were offshore, but when they came inland, the concerns emerged. I think we've got to look at, we want employment. We want less people needing the support and having a better opportunity in life. And it's the mix and balance of all of that. We have to have energy to run our industry.
We have to have renewables in that case for pound investment.
But would you rather have skylines
renewables.
full of wind turbines?
I always say to
fracking?
people that we once used wind energy hugely in the past. There were thousands of windmills all across the country. Where are they now? They've gone. These windmills that we put up now will go when we don't need them, when we've got a better form of
But the same
energy.
people who object to the fracking will probably object to the wind turbines, surely.
But we've got something like 80% of people in this country are not happy with the notion of fracking. That's a very large number of people and includes a lot of Conservative supporters.
And there's tidal energy and there's solar energy. It's not just about wind farms.
Yes.
But Caroline, I love your analogy of windmills in the past. The number of windmills that you would see adjacent to rural farms driving the energy. The technology that we have in this country now and the way of life demands far, far more energy. And whilst I firmly, and we agree, that any decision on any major energy infrastructure should be a local planning authority decision, we have to look at the benefits in the long term. Shale gas in the long term actually is environmentally friendly.
We're going to have to move on. Right, more from our guests shortly and later in the programme.